Hi guys, sorry it took me so long to get this video, but a lot's been happening. You know, I'm a pastor, so other things go on in my life, other than writing too. But I love writing, so excuse my voice. I'm a little hoarse too. Allergies have been bad for me. Okay, I wanted to talk about the last two imageries, so hold on just a minute. Okay, the last two imageries I want to talk about. I'm gonna put my glasses on. I wear glasses, guys. You know that. Okay, I want to talk about organic and kinesinetic. Kinesinetic, I think that's how they pronounce it. Okay, in fiction writing, organic imagery appeals to the reader's internal sensations and emotions, such as feelings of hunger, thirst, happiness, while kinetic imagery uses movement and physical action to create a sensory experience of motion. Okay, now they show some examples here. So you probably use these all the time, but you just don't know that you do use them. Organic, feelings of hunger, thirst, happiness, sadness. You use that, but you don't realize that these are techniques in writing that they have certain names. Okay, here's an example. Okay, well, let me read the definition first. This type of imagery describes a character's internal, bodily, and emotional experiences. It can include physical sensations such like pain, thirst, or hunger, as well as internal feelings such as happiness, sadness, or fear. Okay, now here's an example. A wave of nausea washed over her as the truth dawned on him. That's internal emotion. What did it say? A wave of nausea washed over her as the truth dawned on him. I think they meant as the truth dawned on her. So in other words, she realized something bad had happened or something about this person wasn't what he seemed to be. And when the truth came out, a wave of nausea made her feel sick. So we all know how it feels to feel nauseated, to feel sick. So that's an example of organic. Now here's another example. His stomach growled, a desperate plea for substance. Now this is physical sensations. That's another thing of organic. You know how it feels to be hungry. Your stomach is growling, and you want something so bad. So that is what you use to make the reader understand what the character is feeling. You want the whole thing comes down to you want the reader to experience everything up to a point that the characters experience. So we know how it feels to be afraid. We know how it feels to be hungry. We know how it feels to be nauseated. We know how, those things make us feel. So those are internal emotions and feelings that everybody has experienced at one point in their life. Okay, here's another example. She felt a tightness in her chest, a joyful flutter that threatened to lift her from her feet. This is emotional sensation. She felt something made her so happy that she felt like she could almost fly, I guess. So that's organic. So now, what do we say organic was? Organic appeals to the reader's internal sensations and emotions, such as feelings of hunger, thirst, happiness, or sadness. Now we're going to go to the other one. This is a one that's kinetic. It's called kinetic. They spell it a little differently here. Kinetic imagery. This definition is this type of imagery uses words related to physical movement and action to give the reader a sensation of mobile or physical activity. So, like a person that's running a race, and they're describing, how his legs were beginning to get tired. He didn't know if he could make it to the finish line. So, somewhere along the line in our life, we have experienced something like that, but we didn't think we could make it. We were tired, exhausted, so our emotions kind of hit with his, so we know how he's feeling, even though we're not running the race. We understand it. Okay, here's another example of kinetic. The sprinter exploded from the starting blocks, legs pumping like pistons. So now we know that means he's going fast. He's really running. His legs are going like a piston. He's just scooting down the line. He took off from that start point, and he was gone. So we can, if you've ever been doing something really that took strength and energy, and you were doing it so much that you can experience, in a sense, what he's feeling as he took off in that starting gate. Even though you're not running the race, you can feel for him. You've had that feeling somewhere in your life, something that you've done when you had to push yourself as hard as you could go and as fast as you could go. Now here's another one. She watched the leaves twirl and dance to the ground as they fell from the tree. Now this is motion, so we can, how leaves flutter, they just flutter down. Like the trees shake, it shake, and the leaves just fall, especially fall. We're into fall now. You see the leaves fall. They don't just fall straight down. They kind of flutter. They just flutter softly down to the ground. So we all can, our senses, we can see that. We can look in their mind, and we've seen leaves falling. See, the writer is trying to bring back to your memory everything that you have experienced that the person that you're reading about is going through now. So you have empathy for him and sympathy. Empathy because you've experienced it like that before, and sympathy maybe you haven't, but you feel for him what he's going through. Here's another one. He lunged forward, his muscles coiling and uncoiling, sudden urgency and speed. That's somebody's running a race, sounds like to me. And his legs and arms, and they're just going. So kinetic is showing physical activity, where organic is showing internal, what's happening in the person's mind, his feelings, his emotion. And the other part, kinetic, is the physical aspect. We're letting them experience what the person is doing at that time. So that's organic and that's kinetic. And let's see if I got anything else here I want to do. Okay, here's another example of organic imagery. I want you to get to understanding now. That's what the emotions now, remember. Organic imagery creates internal, physical, and emotional experiences for the reader rather than just deciding external sight or sounds. Examples include a reader's feeling thirst, the sensation of hunger, the getting tired, feeling of disappointment, or a character's internal pain. We've all experienced internal pain. We've all experienced sadness, emotional turmoil. So we can relate to this character that you're writing about. We can relate of what he's going through. That's what the writer is basically trying to do. He's trying to get you to relate to everything that this character is going through, because somewhere in our life we may have experienced some of the same feelings. Organic is emotional, and kinetic is physical. You know how it feels to run and be exhausted, or to do a whole day's housework of laundry and stuff and feel exhausted. So if this person, we don't just want to say he was exhausted after laundry. We could say it differently. We could say she was exhausted putting clothes in the washer, taking them out, putting them in the dryer, folding them. All this was such a weight on her. Now we understand it, because you folded laundry. You know how that is to do if you don't have any help. So that's giving the physical, physical feeling of, folding, packing, putting it all together, taking it upstairs, putting them in the drawer. So you're experiencing physical, but you're also experiencing organic of how she's feeling. She's tired. She's exhausted. Those are emotional. And the other part, we see the physical. Why she's tired. She's folding clothes, putting them in the laundry, taking them upstairs, putting them in the kids' drawers, putting her husband's clothes up, hanging. So we can experience, the writer wants you to experience everything to a point that the character is doing. Now, when I say to a point, like we don't, if they're doing a mystery and there's a killer, he doesn't want you to experience everything, like, what he's doing, how he killed the person. That's going a little deep. Some people like that. But to me, that's going a little deep. So I would say you have to stop it to a certain point. Maybe give a flashback of why he's doing this, but don't go into the detail. But that's everybody's preference. Every writer writes the way he wants to write. So anyway, so that's organic and that's kinetic. Kinetic is showing physical, so we experience what the person is feeling physically in his body, exhaustion, fear. But emotional, that's another thing. That's, you want the reader to experience things that the readers, that the character is going through. And that's, let me read this again. So I want you to get it right. I know what I mean, but I don't want to be like some of my teachers where I know it, but I can't get it across. Okay, so we want organic imagery. He wants the reader to experience how it feels to be thirsty, hungry, gut-wrenching feeling of disappointment, or character's internal pain when feeling that's organic. It's emotions, it's inside. What he's feeling on the inside. Where kinetic is showing making you understand how he's feeling on the outside. He's running, his body is going like a car. His heart is beating like an engine. So they go together in a sense very well, because you get to understand the emotional side and what the emotional side does to the physical side. So let me see if there's any more here that I have for you. Let me see. Okay, so well, that's really it. That's the 7 types that you should really should know. As I said before, you use these every day. When you're describing characters, or how somebody's feeling, the emotional turmoil. If a person, if okay, let's say a person has been abused by a spouse or by a mate, and you want that person to understand. You may talk about her inner feelings, of her emotions, how she remembered when they first met, how he was loving and kind. So we're in her mind, so to speak, feeling what she's remembering and feeling the pain as these memories come about. And then the physical side would be maybe when she looks at her body, the welts, the sores. We can know how it feels. We may not have been in a physical abuse, but we know how it feels to be in pain, to hurt, for your body to hurt. So you use this stuff every day, but you just don't realize that you use it. Okay? Okay, guys, I'm so sorry that it took me so long to get this, but I've got, I have a ministry too, and I do things for my ministry. I'm always doing, and then plus I'm working on my 14th novel, which I haven't got too far on, because so many things have been coming up, so I got to get back to writing myself. You should write something every day, which I have missed that. So I'm telling you what I should be telling myself to write something every day. But I am getting back to it. There's just things in family matters and stuff like that. But so the last two is organic and kinetic. Organic is emotional inside, what's happening, how I'm feeling on the inside, and then kinetic is how that inside may have affected the outside. Or it could just be you're trying to describe something that this person is going through in the physical aspects. He's running, he's jogging, he's jumping, or, experiencing memories of pain and stuff like that. So those are ones you can look it up on the internet, and you can find more ways to say it. But it's basically organic is like how they're feeling on the inside, and kinetic is showing the physical aspects of imagery, how they're feeling, like the runner running, sprinting, how his legs are feeling, they're aching, they're tired, So all that, it all comes together. But like I say, when you're writing a story, you don't stop and think to yourself, is this organic imagery? Is this kinetic imagery? Is this a metaphor? Is this a simile? You write it. And then afterwards, when you take writing school, you start discussing this stuff, and you say, I wrote that, but I didn't know that's what that was. I didn't know that was a metaphor. I didn't know that was simile. I didn't know that was organic. I didn't know that was kinetic. So all this other things, you're learning. But then you start learning that what they are called. And that's important, because if you go to writing school, my students are in my writing school. I have a lot of them. But even if you don't want to go to a free writing school, if you go to writing school, it's better to come in with some knowledge than to have no knowledge at all. And you sit there and you wonder, oh boy, they all know what this means. I don't. So I wish I had, looked it up. So you have to go out and study. You have to look into the whole craft of writing, because you're using techniques that, like I say, you don't even know you're using them. And that's why it's good to know. So when you come across some of that stuff, you say, that's a simile, or that's a metaphor, or that's organic imagery. So what imagery is making it, to sum it all up in one word, putting it in the reader's mind, the whole picture of this person, how he feels, thinks, acts, reacts, and why he's why he is what he is. So you're putting the whole person together so the reader can understand him better and understand why he is the way he is, or what made him the way he is, or what is happening to him at this point that's going to change his whole aspect on his life. So that's the last two, organic and kinetic. Look them up, study them. They're very important, and I'll be back with something else at a later date. Oh, I'm gonna try to come back and show you what I have on. So this is something a little different. This is a dress I got from Milan, Italy, and I got it through Walmart. It's got the designer label in it and everything. I got a black one, a yellow one, a blue one. I think those are only 3: black, blue, and yellow. But so I'll show it to you. It's a different type of dress. You can see the neckline. Okay, see. So this is how the neckline looks. So I'm gonna come back and show you this dress. I think I'm gonna put a jacket on with it. But anyway, you'll see it. Okay, so I hope you guys understand this a little better, because like I said, these are techniques in writing, and imagery are techniques in writing that you use every day in your writing, but you don't realize you're using them. So these are terms that you should know. So if you ever go to school or write at school and they say, well, what is imagery? You can put your hand and say, I know, and I'll be very proud of you. Okay, bye-bye now. Be back again.